And it looks as though we have everybody here. It's already, before we get into other matters, the case has been, or the Jess has verified that each team has confirmed all of their players are now here with the replacements. And before we start, I'm going to just make a few comments. And I want to introduce myself and then have the scoring panelists introduce themselves so that all the players know who they're dealing with. My name is John Wheeler. I was a district court judge for 14 years down in Arapahoe. I retired almost exactly a year ago, and I'm glad to be doing this again. Before that, for 26 years, I was a civil trial lawyer. And so I know this case. I mean, I had this case dozens of times, so I'm very familiar with it. It's very enjoyable for me. I'll ask Ms. Cohen to join us with audio and tell a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Judge Wheeler. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Cohen, and I am with the University of Colorado. I'm based out of our System Administration office in Denver, and I'm our Director of Litigation Support. I am a non-attorney, so which I think is a little unique on the scoring panel. I've spent the last 22 years in civil litigation support, and I focus most of my time now on trial technology and litigation technology for our department at the university. I've been to countless trials in a paralegal role, mostly civil litigation, and I look forward to hearing from both teams today. And as a side note, I did participate on our high school's mock trial team when I was a high schooler, so this is very near and dear to my heart. And I just want you guys to know that I'm looking forward to hearing from you and seeing what you guys have to offer us today. So best of luck to both teams.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Hello, my name is Manuel Sanchez Mojano. I'm originally from Argentina, actually. I went to undergrad in Minnesota and then went to law school in Wisconsin, and I'm actually currently a law clerk in the 19th Judicial District. I clerk for their criminal judges, and then when I'm done doing that, I hope to join a district attorney's office somewhere here in Colorado. I did mock trial my 4 years in high school, so the moment I had the opportunity to volunteer to be here with you guys today, I jumped on it. So I'm very excited and look forward to seeing you.
And one reason I do this, and for the students' benefit too, I always want to be sure that I am pronouncing names, whether it's attorneys, jurors, or witnesses. And it is Sanchez Mojano. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes, like a zh.
Got it. Ms. Garcia.
Hi, thank you, Judge Wheeler. My name is Erica Garcia. I'm originally from Florida. I did my undergrad and I got my law degree in Florida. And now I'm a commercial litigation attorney at Berg Simpson.
Ah, great. We have a lot of Berg Simpson attorneys participating. I'm really glad to see that. And just as a side note, one of my classmates in your firm lost his house in the damn fire, and it just breaks my heart. Ronnie Sandgren.
Yes, and, I heard that.
Just broke our hearts.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yes. Anyway, Ronnie's a great guy and a good friend. Anyway, with that, I believe I need to run through a few preliminaries here. I'll try to be brief on these because you have all heard these, especially the students. You've heard them again and again, so I'll try to be brief with them.
Judge, very sorry. I apologize real fast just to clear up that we are still clearing conflicts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Good. So we won't start with that part.
If all three of my panelists and my student participants can clarify that they have no conflicts, I will verify that all of the other courtrooms are clear as well.
I have none. Do the panelists have any?
I have none.
And lead counsel for the plaintiff, do you have any conflicts with any of us?
No, No conflicts.
And for the defense, lead counsel?
No conflicts, Your Honor.
And by the way, who is lead counsel for the plaintiff?
Brandon Lee, or sorry, no, I'm for the defense, my fault.
I am, Your Honor.
Mr. Samford, and no conflicts there. And for the defense, lead counsel was Mr. Lee, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we are clear on our conflicts.
All
I
right,
don't know
Judge.
why. I'm
uh,
sorry, go ahead.
We have 2 rooms that have cleared on conflicts. Please give us 1 minute to clear the other 2 rooms.
You bet. For some reason, 4th round is when conflicts come up historically. I don't know why, but they do. So
Just real quick, I thought I had access to the roster, but now I'm not able to find where it is. Could someone just let me know where I can find that?
Yes, Erica, I will have that sent over to you.
Thank you.
I want all you students and participants to know this is a real marathon today. I'm tired. I can't even imagine how tired you are. So it's been a long, long day, and we're very proud of all of you for moving through this the way you have.
While we're waiting on that final conflict check, I will mention, yeah, normally we only do 2 of these on Saturday, and our last round is normally on Sunday. So you guys are rocking it out with 3 full rounds this day, and we congratulate all of you.
I just received the roster. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, I was just confirming that I received the roster.
Oh, great, great.
All right, and we have been cleared on conflicts. You can go ahead and get started, and I will be putting the rosters in the chat box as well.
Thank you very much. This has been a long day, and we'll be done at the end of this, but we do need to get through it. As I said, I'm going to streamline some of these advisements in the beginning because you've heard them so much. But first is that all of those folks who are joining us through YouTube, coaches, parents, friends, family, remember, you may watch this live, you may not record it unless you have permission from the CBA. The CBA, Colorado Bar Association, of course, can photograph, video at their pleasure. That is part of the competition rules. I also need to, well, frankly, since this is the last round, it really doesn't matter who watches this one because the competition in this round will be over so that no one can be spying on your performance. This is the last performance. So it really doesn't matter if anyone else other than or if non-team members or people associated with your team are watching. Give me a moment. As the participants are well aware, no recesses will be allowed unless I call them. I call them for only two reasons. One is if I hear from you that there is a health emergency, and please don't be shy if there is one, let me know and we will deal with it. We will pause the proceedings, deal with a health emergency. Also, if there are technical problems, let me know and we will deal with those, stop the time and address them. But other than that, no recesses. If there are any disputes that arise, whether they are inside or outside of the competition, please address those appropriately. Some of those will be addressed to me, others will be appropriately addressed to the competition committee after the trial is over. You do not probably need to be reminded that all of the judges, including myself, strictly hold to the time limits. So please be aware of that. I would like both timekeepers on screen at the moment, if you could, so that I could address you directly. Now I have a timekeeper for Tulip and a timekeeper for Lily. Just want to make sure that you are both there, and you are. For Tulip, let's see, Ms. Newray, you are also going to be an emergency witness, correct?
I'm not Adela Newray. My name is Maria Walker.
Oh, okay. So you're going to be the timekeeper. How are you going to inform us? By chat or by sign?
I will inform you by chat. I'm going to, I haven't logged into Zoom, but I'm going to right now because I wasn't sure that that was how it worked.
You're perfectly fine. You do not need to do an additional screen if you just want to do it on chat and then let your three attorneys use this screen.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and Mr. Roger, oh no, that's your character, Mr. Lane. You are, I can't remember because I've had you before, whether you do it by chat or by sign.
I'll do it by chat.
Okay, so everybody's going to be keeping time for their team by chat so that everyone knows that, and not by time. Let's see here. Oh, as far as, well, first of all, let's do this. I'm going to ask lead attorney for the plaintiff to Mr. Samford to introduce himself and then pass the baton to his co-counsel and introduce themselves. And then whoever the last attorney is, introduce the first witness so that they can introduce, all three of them can introduce themselves. So Mr. Samford, you're off.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Elijah Sanford. I'll be doing the opening. I'll be directing Carson Durst, and I will be doing the cross of Dr. Devin Williams.
And next counsel.
Hello, my name is Giovanni Malone. I will be doing the closing statement, the direct of Dakota Weirs, and the cross-examination of Blake Doncourt.
And third counsel.
My name is Metzli Jimenez. I will be doing the direct of Dr. Casey Rogers and crossing Skylar Weirs.
Thank you. And if you would introduce your first witness and they can go from there.
Yes, Your Honor. Our first witness is Dakota Weirs.
And if I could have the witness introduce himself by real name, and then we'll go through the rest of the witnesses.
My name is Athena Encinius and I play Dakota Weirs.
And our next witness.
My name is Ellen Clark and I will be playing Carson Durst.
Thank you. And a final witness for the plaintiff.
My name is Bennett Lane. I'll be Dr. Casey Rogers.
Thank you. And lead counsel for the defense, Mr. Lee, if you could introduce yourself and then proceed through the other attorneys.
My name is Brandon Lee. We're having some
Whoop.
Sorry, we're having some echo right now.
If we can have your timekeeper that just joined on her home screen, have her shut her microphone off. That might help you guys.
Hello, can you hear us now?
That's much better.
Okay. My name is Brandon Lee. I will be doing the closing, directing Devin Williams, and crossing Kirsten Durst.
My name is Trenton Braden. I will be doing the opening, directing Skylar Weirs, and crossing Dakota Weirs.
And we need you to your audio. Ms. Ray, and we need you to
Can you hear me?
And we need you to let's see, Ms. Ray, we need you to activate your video and your audio. And then activate your audio.
Yes, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I believe you must be through your telephone.
Yes, she is also dialed in on her telephone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep, just fine.
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Let's see. Now I've lost you.
Okay. All right, because like it's taking a while for the audio and the judge, so I just want to apologize for anything. Okay. I'm ready. Okay.
Keep doing that. I think you're on the right track. You're still talking to us through a phone, correct, Adela? Okay, so I can see that you can hear me clearly. I have muted your Zoom so that you should be good to talk to us on your phone. So let's go ahead and give it a try.
Go ahead and say anything you wish, Ms. Ray. Oop, the screen seems to have frozen.
Okay, and just to give you a little bit more bandwidth, I've tried again to just shut your video off, even just to see if we can get your voice, Miss Ray. While we normally prefer to be able to see you on camera, if just being able to hear your voice is the best we can do, possibly get out of all of this and just call in. All right, in the chat, it looks like she says she's reconnecting. I'm not sure where we left off. Can we move on to a next introduction and get back to her?
Yes, let's have the TULIP witnesses, please. And the defense witnesses, if you could reactivate your video and your audio, will introduce you.
Okay.
We had you before. Yeah, there you are. And could we have?
My name is Yusuf Zuhu, and I'll be playing Skylar Weirs.
My name is Sarah Rani. And I'll be playing.
My name is Luis Martinez, and I'll be playing Blake Doncourt.
Thank you. And it looks like we're having some video band problems there. We could hear you, but your screen is frozen, which to me says, you know, I don't know much about this, about electronics, but I believe that means our bandwidth is narrow. So we're working on it. Now I'm seeing a little bit more bandwidth. You're kind of herky-jerky, but let's assume this is going to work. Okay, I'll go on, and perhaps as I get further into this, we'll have better connection for Ms. Newray. With all of you being introduced, you have all sworn, all of the attorney team members have sworn to the competition rules twice already today, once yesterday. I'm not going to have you do it again. I'll assume that you know the rules and you have sworn to them. Same with the witnesses. They have sworn to the competition rules 3 times. I will not have them repeat that. I am, however, going to have the scoring panelists come on the screen. I only need video, no audio, and I will ask you to raise your right hands and I will swear you into the rules. And Ms. Garcia will be the last one. There we go. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? You may nod in assent. Thank you very much, and you may go off video then. And that will be participants. That, of course, is the last time you will see those jurors until the end of the case after they submit their scoring ballots. I am also going to swear in all of the witnesses for both sides. And I don't need to see you. I'm going to take on faith all of the witnesses. That way, I do not have to swear you in individually as you come to the stand. That's just a waste of time. We want to get through this as quickly as possible so that when you take the stand, you'll be testifying almost immediately through your attorney. So I am swearing you in now that the testimony that you will give today in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please nod in assent. Thank you very much. You are all sworn in for your testimony when it occurs. First off, Mr. Sanford, lead counsel for the plaintiff. Are you ready to go to trial?
I am, Your Honor.
And if you could connect on video, let's see if we've got a good connection there, and we do. And do you have any pretrial matters that you'd like to address?
There are no pretrial matters, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Lead counsel for the defense, Mr. Lee. And is the defense ready for trial?
Yes, we do have a set of stipulated facts that we'd like to present to the judge and the jury.
And that would be fine. The stipulated facts are then in evidence and presumed to be in the jury's hands. Anything else?
No, that'll be all.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we will now, let me ask, let me ask Jess, are you still working with Ms. Newray, Jess?
We can have her verify. It looks like she has joined both via video and audio.
And Ms. Newray, I can hear you. Speak up a little bit. Do you have video or will we just have audio for you?
I'm currently blocked from starting video and I am speaking the loudest. So
Let me see if I can fix your video.
And we're also getting an echo on her audio, so she probably needs to turn off the Zoom audio.
okay.
Oh, no, it already is. Your Zoom audio is off. We can see you. That's wonderful.
Yay.
All right. So it looks like we're all set. And we'll proceed now. Mr. Sanford, looks like you have opening statement for the plaintiff. And you may
Thank you, Your
proceed.
Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
All right. Dakota Weirs loves to play the piano. From a young age, she would play with her grandfather. Sitting together in front of the piano with him were some of the fondest memories of Dakota's childhood. And when Dakota's grandfather died, when she was just 7 years old, the piano made her feel like maybe, somewhere, she was still with him. Piano was the focal point of Dakota's life, but it was not the only part. Dakota was an honor roll student and the president of her student government. Dakota has taken every opportunity to succeed, no matter how difficult. Wherever Dakota went, she was passionate about helping others. Dakota spent her little free time outside of school volunteering at the local homeless shelter. Dakota's talents at the piano have helped her as well. She has won contests, awards, and praise from all who have heard her play. People would come from around the state to hear her perform, and her crowning achievement from her piano was a full ride scholarship to Juilliard, the most prestigious art school in the country. Dakota's future was no doubt full of the musical successes and selfless community activism that she has exhibited so many times before. We are here today because a lush fertilizer corporation negligently failed to exercise reasonable care to prevent creating an unreasonable risk of harm that Drufo causes cancer. And because Lush Fertilizer failed to properly label and warn against the carcinogenic or cancer-causing effects of Drufo, by the end of this trial today, we will have proved by a preponderance of the evidence that the Lush Corporation manufactured a fertilizer containing Drufo, and that Drufo is a carcinogen, and the Lush Corporation failed to take steps that would have protected Miss Weirs in her reasonable use of the product. Today, you will hear testimony from an expert witness testifying on the dangers of Drufo, as well as testimony from the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, who has had her life ruined by the blatant and unapologetic negligence of the Lush Corporation. Since age 14, Dakota Weirs has spent her summers working at a landscaping technician for Haven Landscaping, where she earned the money she needed to follow her dreams and put herself through school. At Haven Landscaping, Dakota's job was to spread Lush fertilizer on the field where they worked. Every day, she worked with the past 6 years. Dakota has been exposed to Lush fertilizer and its carcinogenic binding agent, Drufo. This exposure to Drufo is the sole cause of Dakota Weir's diagnosis with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a disease that causes extreme chills and chest pain, swollen lymph nodes, severe shortness of breath, and has left her constantly fatigued. This disease has stolen the ability to play the piano and has left her unable to attend her dream school and taken her last connection to her grandfather. Today, you'll also hear from Carson Durst, an expert chemical engineer and someone who has personal experiences in the practices and ethics of the Lush Corporation. Carson is an expert on the safety and efficacy of chemicals and fertilizers and has a unique connection to the development of Drufo, as well as in-house testing from the Lush Corporation. From Mr. Durst, you will hear about how the Lush Corporation found evidence that Drufo caused cancer and how they covered it up. And you'll hear from Dr. Casey Rogers, a PhD in agriculture and entomology and a professor of horticulture and a former employee of a multinational chemical company who has published many peer-reviewed scholarly articles on the dangers of Drufo. From Ms. Rogers, you will hear of the extensive research and testing she has done. Testing which has determined that without a doubt, Drufo causes cancer. By the end of this trial today, my colleague, Mr. Malone, will review the evidence that has been presented and will show, by a preponderance of the evidence, that the Lush Fertilizer Corporation had knowledge of the cancer-causing properties of Drufo and was negligent in its failure to properly label its packaging to warn against these effects. Lush Fertilizer put profits over human lives, and Dakota Weirs suffers the consequences of their greed. Today, we are seeking damages in the amount of $1.3 million for loss of career and educational opportunities, as well as emotional and physical damages. You must fix this injustice. You must find that Lush Fertilizer Corporation was negligent, and you must put Dakota Weir's life back on track. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we do apologize for interrupting the flow of the trial, but our witnesses are currently, they were disconnected from the meeting and now they need to be let back into the Zoom call.
No, we were here.
Oh, you're good? Okay, all right.
They're all back.
Yeah.
And Mr. Braden, you have opening statement for the defense. And when you are prepared, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, the jury, and the opposing counsel. Today, the opposing counsel is going to want you to believe that this case is about profits over people, but that is simply not true. This case is about research and results. Now, before I continue, I would just like to introduce our client, Lush. Now, Lush has been in the industry for many, many years and has revolutionized fertilizer with a chemical compound called Drufo. Now, Drufo is safe and there has been no evidence pointing otherwise. Continuing. The plaintiff has a burden of proof, which means they have to prove 4 things. 1, that Lush made a product containing Drufo. 2, that Drufo is dangerous and Lush knew. 3, that Dakota Weirs was expected to use the product. And 4, that the product is the one that caused the damages. Now 1 and 3 are indisputable, as it is very obvious that Lush made a product containing Drufo. That's why we're here. And it is also very obvious that Dakota Weirs was expected to use the product as that was their job. Continuing, I would just like to introduce our witnesses. Our first witness will be Dr. Devin Williams. Now, Dr. Williams is the lead director in the toxicology department at Lush and has toxicology certifications in 4 states. He has also researched Drufo for 4 years, and not once in those 4 years of research has he ever found any conclusive evidence proving that Drufo is dangerous. Dr. Williams has also stated that the Dr. Casey Rogers study was flawed, with people using multiple chemicals and products, and not only Lush's product. Our second witness will be Skylar Weirs, who has been an investigative journalist for a year and has been researching modern agritech and the effects of Drufo. And our last witness, Blake Doncourt, who is not only the CEO of Lush, but also makes great efforts to be an environmentalist. Not because of this case, but because he cares about the environment and he cares about people. If he had any knowledge that Drufo is dangerous, he would have put a warning on the package. But he knew it was not dangerous because of research and results. Thank you, Your Honor. That is all.
Thank you very much. And give me just a moment to adjust my lists here. And we will have the first witness for the plaintiff. Mr. Malone, are you taking the first witness?
I am, Your Honor.
Good. And that will be, well, give me just a moment. You'll have direct examination, and cross-examination will be Mr. Braden for the defense. And Mr. Malone, you may call your first witness.
I call Dakota Weirs. May I proceed?
And ma'am, you have been sworn in already, Ms. Weirs. Mr. Malone, you may proceed.
Thank you. Would you please state your first and last name and spell your last name for the record?
Dakota Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
What is your relation to this case?
Well, I'm suing Lush Fertilizer because the product made me sick, also called Lush Fertilizer.
And what do you mean by that?
Since I was the age of 14, I worked as a landscape technician for Haven Landscaping. At that job, I regularly used Lush fertilizer. Since my regular exposure to Lush Fertilizer's product, I developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is the type of cancer that attacks my immune system.
Now that we know why you're here, I want to talk a little bit about you. What is it that you do?
I used to play piano, and I spend time helping the community.
Now, you mentioned that you used to play the piano. Why are you unable to do that now?
I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I began rapidly losing weight despite the fact that sometimes my abdomen would swell double its normal size. I began feeling fatigue, developed chest pains, developed chills, and my lymph nodes swelled. From then on out, I was weak and sick, and too sick to continue playing piano. I spent most of my days bedridden or trapped on the couch, unable to play the piano.
And how long have you been playing the piano?
Since I was 7, though the piano was important to me long before I started playing. It's still important in my heart, even though I may never be able to play again.
Would you elaborate on how it was important to you before you started playing and why it remains so important to you?
Well, it was my past, it was my future, and now it's nothing. My late grandfather was an accomplished piano player. And I became mesmerized by the piano. From then on out, I used to play with my toys underneath the piano all the time. I would press the pedals over and over since they were the only things I would be able to reach. When I was tall enough to reach the keys, I started banging them on them instantly. And as soon as I began playing little ditties that I wrote myself, my grandfather passed and I started taking lessons because my parents saw that potential. I learned how to play because it made me feel as if my grandfather was still with me. He used to let me sit on his lap while he played. He showed me all the different sounds the keys made and how the pedals affected the tone. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma not only took away my future and ability to play, but also the only connection I had left to my beloved grandfather.
And would you elaborate on how exactly your future was taken from you?
Eventually, after years of consistent practicing and dedication, I became an accomplished piano player. I performed in recitals, concerts, and even won a few competitions. Piano was my life. People from across the state came to watch me play, and I was offered a number of scholarships. All my work and dedication had paid off. I was offered a full ride scholarship to Juilliard, perhaps one of the finest musical conservatories in the world. Everything I had dreamed of and everything I had dreamed of. It was all stolen away from me by non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Now I want to talk about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma itself. When did you start developing symptoms?
After working with Drufo for an extended period of time and just before I was set to leave for Juilliard.
And in what capacity did you work with the Drufo?
I was responsible for spreading seeds and fertilizers for Haven Landscaping because I was not old enough to work with any of the machinery.
What, if anything, did you know about the dangers of Drufo?
Well, I didn't know much. I did know that I was supposed to wear protective gear, but I was never made aware of what would happen to me if I didn't wear protective gear. For that reason, a lot of a lot of the time, my coworkers and I wore shorts and t-shirts.
Mrs. Weirs, are you familiar with the warning label that was placed on Lush fertilizer products?
Yes, I am. I received a copy of the warning labels from my boss.
Your Honor, permission to pull up Exhibit 1 to lay foundation for its admissibility.
You may pull up Exhibit 1 for identification. And is, good. It's going to be screen shared. Thank you.
Mrs. Weirs, what is this document?
That's the warning label on Lush Fertilizer's product that my boss sent to me.
And Mrs. Weirs, is this a true and correct copy of the warning label you received?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, plaintiff moves to admit Exhibit 1 into evidence.
And Mr. Braden, what's your position on Exhibit 1?
No objections.
And Your Honor.
I'm sorry. I just couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
No objections, Your Honor.
No objection. Thank you very much. So Exhibit 1 is in evidence, may be published to the jury, and Mr. Malone, you may continue.
Thank you. Ms. Weirs, I want to go over the contents of this warning label. Generally speaking, what information does it provide to you?
We should probably have, let's put that back on the screen so that everybody can see it as she reads, as she describes it. Thank you very much. And you may continue now.
Can you restate the question?
I can. Ms. Weirs, I want to go over the contents of the warning label. Generally speaking, what information does it provide you with?
Well, it says to use protective clothing and a respirator to wash my hands.
And what does it say could happen if you use the product?
It only says that it only says that it would cause eye irritation, and it says nothing about causing cancer.
Ms. Weirs, how would you have acted differently if you knew exposure to drupa would cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I would have understood the severity of not following the directions. Of course, I would have worn protective equipment, and the only reason why I didn't follow these or safety recommendations was because I didn't understand what the product would do to me.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Braden, cross-exam.
Yes.
And Mr. Braden, I wasn't sure if you were standing in back of a table or something. If you'd come a couple of steps closer, I think we'll do a lot better as far as the sound. And if there's a mark on the floor for all of your witnesses, they should be standing where you're standing. So, or the attorneys. So let's go forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. I understand you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but I would just like to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Do you still have Exhibit 1 in front of you?
Yes.
And does it say to utilize protective gear?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And did you ever utilize protective gear on your hands?
No, I didn't, but that's because I didn't know what it would do to me.
So you didn't protect your hands?
No, I didn't.
And did you ever utilize protective gear on your arms?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Did you ever utilize protective gear on your arms?
On my arms?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
So you didn't protect your arms?
No.
And did you ever wear protective gear on your legs?
No, I didn't.
So you didn't protect your legs?
No.
And did you ever wear protective gear on your face?
No.
So you breathed in the fertilizer?
Yes.
And did your boss ever tell you to protect yourself from wear protective gear?
Yes, he told me to wear a mask and pants and long sleeves, but I didn't do it because it was too hot outside.
So you didn't follow your boss's direct orders?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you. And Mr. Malone, redirect.
I have no questions for redirect, Your Honor.
Fair enough. Without redirect, of course, there is no recross. Ms. Weirs, your testimony is completed. Thank you very much. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And give me just a moment before we have our next witness. And Mr. Sanford, are you taking the next witness? Looks like you are. Okay, and we also then will have, let's see, for Carson. Mr. Lee, you will be doing cross-exam for the defendant, is that correct? Ah, there we go.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, give me just a moment. And Mr. Sanford, if you would call your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Carson Durst.
And Ms. Durst, you have already been sworn in. Excuse me. Mr. Sanford, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Ms. Durst. Will you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
Ms. Durst, how are you employed?
I'm currently the lead product developer at Terrace Greenery.
And how long have you worked in that position for?
I've been working at Terrace Greenery since 2006, so about 16 years now.
And what are your responsibilities as a lead project developer for Terrace Greeneries?
At Terrace Greeneries, I oversee the development of its line of fertilizers and lawn enhancement products.
Ms. Durst, why are you here today?
I'm here because I used to work for Lush Fertilizer as their product development engineer. In that role, I discovered a study from England where I found a chemical compound in Drufo that might cause cancer.
Now, before we discuss the study you referenced, let's discuss your background working with Lush Fertilizer. When did you first begin working with Lush?
I first began working with Lush in 2003.
And why did you begin working with Lush?
I began to work for Lush because I actually grew up with Charles Doncourt, who was Blake Doncourt's oldest child. We played on the same soccer team, and we were very close friends. And eventually we went to college together, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. And so Lush hired me right out of college.
And while you worked at Lush, what work did you do?
I was eventually promoted to product development engineer.
And in that role, what did you do?
As the name suggests, I helped in the process of developing products. My biggest assignment was working to help develop Drufo.
And what is Drufo?
Drufo is a patented bonding agent that Lush developed to keep its fertilizer products preserved and intact. The chemical in Drufo was developed over the course of a couple years starting in 2001.
How were you involved in the development of Drufo?
I was tasked to research the chemical compound, or one of the chemical compounds that made up Drufo.
And what did you learn as a result of your research?
In my research, I found a study from England that concluded that a particular chemical compound in Drufo was carcinogenic in rats, which was very concerning.
And when you learned of the study, what did you do?
I documented this study in my lab notebook in 2013 or 2003.
And what happened after you documented the study?
What typically happens with our notebooks is that Jerry Langley, who was the product manager at the time, compiled all of our team's notebooks and the findings in them into a single report that went on to senior management. And eventually we would meet as a team in December of 2003.
And when you met with your team, what happened?
We discussed the findings that we found and that were in the report. And I brought up one of the scientists had found something and was concerned that Drufo may cause cancer and that it may be linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
And when the upper management at Lush Fertilizer found out that it might be linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, what did they do?
At the meeting, I recall hearing from an upper level manager that we should keep this information in the walls And then 1 month after that meeting, a report hit my desk saying that further analysis was required before we were able to make any conclusions regarding the likelihood of chemical compound at issue causing any long-term health effects, including cancer.
And is there anything else that report said?
It concluded that baking Drufo might eliminate Drufo causing cancer.
Now, you mentioned that the report stated further analysis was needed. What further analysis did Drufo do?
To my knowledge, none was completed.
What is the significance of Drufo at Lush Fertilizer?
In Lush, Drufo is like the goose that laid the golden egg. It was very important to Lush's financial success and the success of their products.
Let's shift gears now and talk about your relationship with Lush. How would you describe your relationship?
I think my relationship with Lush started out great. I was very close to the family, as I previously stated, and it was a good connection at first, but then once I pointed out that study from England that the chemical compound might cause cancer, my relationship went completely downhill. All of a sudden, my annual performance reviews turned negative, and I was accused of skating along and not pulling my weight, but none of this was raised before I found that study.
And now, once your relationship with Lush Fertilizer soured, how did you react?
Well, I regret to say that I just couldn't take it anymore, and I began looking for new jobs. I found a job with Terra's Greenery, who is a competitor of Lush Fertilizer, and I'm very ashamed to admit it, but I was very young, fresh out of college, and I felt that I had been betrayed by my best friend and my best friend's family. So I decided to work for Terra's Greenery, and my anger did play a small part in that. But at the end of the day, fertilizer is what I know best, so it just made sense to stay in this industry.
What role does vengeance play in your testimony today?
Today, vengeance plays no role in my testimony. I do deeply regret how much my relationship with the Dawn Courts and Lush Fertilizer has deteriorated, but that's not the reason I'm testifying. I'm testifying because I believe that what Lush Fertilizer did was wrong.
And why are you taking a stand right now against Lush Fertilizer?
I'm taking a stand because I think that Lush Fertilizer knew that Drufo might cause cancer, and they had evidence that it might, and they were told by scientists that it might, and they still decided to release the product to the public.
Your Honor, there are no further questions.
Thank you.
May I cross, Your Honor?
And Mr. Lee, cross-exam.
All right, Misters, let's talk about your time at Lush Fertilizers. So the quality of your work was often criticized, correct?
That is true.
By coworkers?
Yes, my coworkers did say very negative things about me.
And also your product manager as well, Jerry Langley.
Yes, they were concerned about me.
Objection, this is character evidence.
Mr. Lee, any response to that objection about character?
I'm talking about the credibility of the witness, which is always at issue in any court case.
Mr. Sanford?
What the opposition is talking about is they're accusing my client of not being a good scientist. That is not what is at stake in this trial today.
Your response?
Of Ms. Durst, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Lee, I'll give you another shot at this.
So I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm simply inquiring about what other people believed of the quality of Carson Durst's work. I'm not talking about how good of a scientist Carson Durst was, or Ms. Durst was. I'm simply relating about how other people viewed her work.
Well, I'm going to overrule the objection. I don't see this as a character issue. I see this as a work performance issue. And in fact, the question did ask about her work performance, and her coworkers don't like it, apparently, or some coworkers, and that is relevant information about whether or not the company continued to employ her and relied on her research. So I don't see it as character evidence. I see it as work performance. So overruled. Mr. Lee, you may continue.
All right.
If you need to re-ask the question, you may.
That's what I will do. Mr. So you were often criticized by your product manager as well, correct?
I would say they were more concerned about me, but criticized could be used as well.
Okay. And there were also annual reports, as you stated, filled with critiques of your work, correct?
They were negative. I did not say they were filled with critiques.
You are aware you signed prior testimony today?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
You are aware you have signed prior testimony today, correct? In the form of an affidavit?
Yes.
And Mr. Lee, if you could, let's pause the time. If you could move a couple of steps forward, if that's possible, I think that will also help our sound.
Good.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Let's continue.
So you are aware that you have signed prior, or you have created prior testimony today before coming into court, correct?
Yes, I have.
And in that prior testimony, you mentioned that these reports were, quote, filled with negative work.
Okay, yeah, I did. Sorry about that.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about your relationship with Blake Doncourt. Now, Blake Doncourt is the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
As we have discussed earlier, Jerry Langley is your supervisor. Correct?
Yes. Yes. Sorry.
Now, you claim that Jerry Langley treated you unfairly in the work environment,
Towards the end of my employment, yes, I did claim that.
and you went to Blake Doncourt to help you potentially solve this issue.
I did.
All right, but Blake turned you down, correct?
Yes.
He turned you away and told you to solve your own problem.
Hmm.
And after this, you felt confused, correct?
Yes, I was young and I felt very betrayed.
All right, and you even said that you were, quote, seething with anger.
Yes, I did say that.
So shortly after you were fired and you went to work for Terrace Greenery, correct?
Yes.
So you were not laid off, were you?
No, I was fired.
You did not go to Blake Doncourt and say you quit?
No, I was fired, as I previously stated.
All right. Now let's talk about, I would assume you were not happy with your situation after what happened with Lush?
At the time, as I said again, this was my best friend's family, and I was very upset that this has happened.
Again, you were not satisfied with Lush, were you?
No.
You were seething with anger. You were angry at Blake Doncourt, correct?
Yes,
And then you went to go work for Terrace Greenery, correct?
I did.
Which is, as you stated, the biggest competitor to Lush Fertilizer.
Yes,
And you are currently working with Terrace Greenery to create a product that could potentially outsell Lush Fertilizers, correct?
that is true.
And you have helped develop this product.
I have.
And you could, and your company could potentially take over Lush Fertilizer in selling in the market, correct?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to the study you mentioned earlier, the England study. Have any of the authors been mentioned of those, the English study?
Not right now. Not as of now. No.
Have you talked to any of these authors about the study?
No.
All right. And again, the study was from Europe, correct?
Yes.
So it was made by authors we don't know from Europe, correct?
That is true.
And you also don't mention finding this study while you were with anyone, correct?
I don't see why that would be relevant, but yeah.
So you independently found this study, correct?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
All right. So you found this study independently by yourself, correct?
I don't know. Yes, sure.
All right. And this study, again, you just found it, right?
Yes, in my research.
Okay, let's move on. So it has been about 15 years since you've worked with Lush Fertilizers, correct?
Yep.
You are just now, 15 years later, testifying against them while you work for an opposing company.
Yes.
All right. And again, you provided an email today before coming into court, correct?
Can you repeat that, please? I didn't hear you.
Provided an email today before coming into court today, correct?
I provided an email before coming into work today. Sorry.
Correct. You provided an email before coming into court today, correct?
Into court. Is it one of the exhibits? Yes, I did.
All right. And this is the only email from the plenty of progress reports that you mentioned that you brought in court today, correct?
Yes, that is true.
Is independently the only piece of evidence that you've brought today that comes directly from Lush Fertilizers, as you claim?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I'm sorry.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And before we have redirect, this is not an electronic problem of having too many monitors on, but the room, Mr. Lee, that you and the other defense attorneys in just echoes a little bit. And I have old man problems here. So give me just a moment. And I'm going to put my AirPods in to see if I can just get a little better sound.
Would you like us to try and speak a little louder? And
No, it's fine. It's not on your end, it's on my end.
just let us know if there's anything you can't hear us.
Give me just a moment, and I now have my AirPods in, and technology is going to save me. Mr. Samford, redirect.
Thanks, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, it was noted in the opposition's, in their examination, their cross-examination, that you were seething with anger when you were fired from Lush Fertilizer. Now, 15 years later, do you still think that you feel that way?
No, I'm no longer angry. I was very young and I was I was stressed out about not being able to find another job, and I was very upset that this family I had known all my life basically had not been there to support me, but I don't feel that way anymore.
And you would not use this anger to try to seek revenge on the company?
No, I would not. The only thing that I want is for Dakota Weirs to receive justice.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. And Mr. Lee, recross.
No, Your Honor, sure. I would like a recross. Just shortly. All right, Mr. After you were seething with anger, you went to work with Terrace Greenery, correct?
Yes.
And the Doncourt family were lifelong friends of yours, correct?
That is true.
Who you went to soccer games with?
Yes.
Who you went to college with?
Yes.
They betray you, correct?
I felt betrayed at the time. Yes.
And as a result, you were seething with anger?
Yes, at the time.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Durst, that concludes your testimony. You were excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And give me just a moment, and we will have our third witness in just a moment. And for the plaintiff, we should have Ms. Jimenez, is that correct?
Yes.
And let's see. And we have your expert and we should also have Ms. Newray. And Ms. Newray, are you with us?
I am with you guys today.
Oh, that is just perfect sound. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jess, for getting all that done. Ms. Newray, if you could activate your video full-time during the direct examination as well. That way you don't have to, all you have to do is activate your audio to make an objection. And Ms. Jimenez, if you could call your witness.
Plaintiff calls Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
And Dr. Rogers, you have been sworn in to tell the truth already. Ms. Jimenez, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rogers. Will you state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers, spelled R-O-G-E-R-S.
How are you currently employed?
Currently, I'm a professor at UC Berkeley. I'm a professor of entomology and horticulture.
And what education did you obtain to become a professor of horticulture and entomology?
To become a professor, I received my PhD from UC Berkeley in agriculture and entomology, and I also received a bachelor's of science in agriculture and chemistry from CSU.
Have you in your line of work been published?
I've published numerous scholarly articles on the negative and harmful effects of prolonged exposure to various chemicals, including DRUFO.
I want to shift gears and talk about your experience. What does your work entail?
For my work, I conduct mostly studies. One of these studies is then on the prolonged effects DRUFO has on the body.
How, if at all, has your research been used?
My research has been used in litigations before administrative and advisory boards, as well as to regulatory agencies.
What experience do you have as an expert witness?
Like I said, my research has previously been used in litigation, but this is my first time testifying as an expert witness.
Your Honor, plaintiff moves to tender Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in chemistry, entomology, agriculture, and horticulture.
In all 4 areas?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Newray, do you have an objection to any or all of those areas to qualify this witness?
No, I don't.
No objections. Therefore, I will qualify Dr. Rogers as an expert in entomology, horticulture, chemistry, and agriculture. Ms. Jimenez, you may proceed.
Thank you. Now that we've established your background and experiences, let's talk about why you're here. You mentioned you researched DRUFO. Tell the jury about your research.
I first became interested in researching DRUFO as I felt it had been rushed to market. To test this theory, I put together a study which included a control group of people who had never been exposed to DRUFO, a group of people who had used the product semi-regularly, and a group of people that had used the product very regularly.
All right, what findings did you reach as a result of your research?
So the study looked at these people's health effects over a period of years. And in this study, we found that people with more exposure to DRUFO were more likely to have serious health problems, and more serious diagnoses.
Okay. What are the details from your results?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I just didn't understand the question.
What are the details from your results?
The study found that people with regular exposure to DRUFO were 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer as those without exposure, and 5 times more likely to be diagnosed with those compared to those with occasional exposure. These results suggest a significant correlation between exposure to DRUFO and cancer. The vast majority of those cancer diagnoses were endocrine and exocrine-based varieties of cancer, which includes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And what do you know about non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is a specific type of cancer which affects white blood cells. The lymph system is a part of the immune system, which helps the body fight off disease and helps move fluid around the body. Lymphoma can start in any area of the body containing lymph tissue, which includes lymph nodes, the spleen, bone marrow, and tonsils and digestive tract. Lymphoma can then spread throughout the rest of the body.
How severe is non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Some instances of lymphoma are more benign than others and grow and spread slowly. However, in some instances, it can be very aggressive. Over about a 5-year survival rate, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, 72% of people survive. There are 4 stages of lymphoma, with 1 being the least severe and 4 being the most severe. Like most cancers, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma can be controlled, but it can never be fully cured.
All right, what symptoms can non-Hodgkin cause?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma can cause night sweats, fevers, weight loss, tiredness, loss of appetite, and an itch all over the body.
Based on those results, do you believe Drufo was responsible for Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Based on the results of my studies, as well as reviewing Mr. Weir's medical records, I do believe there's a high degree of medical probability that his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was caused by exposure to Drufo.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Newray, cross-examination.
Okay. How are you feeling today, Casey Rogers?
There we go.
Yeah, I feel fine, thank you.
Okay, great. You were hired today to testify.
Yes,
Correct.
and for my expertise.
I'm testifying as an expert witness, correct?
Yes, although like I stated, my research has previously been used in litigation.
You conducted your studies
Yes.
on Drufo, correct? And the study solely focuses on Drufo,
Yes.
correct? You say Drufo is known to be carcinogenic in rats, correct?
Yes,
You have not seen any scientific evidence other than your own study suggesting Drufo is carcinogenic in humans, correct?
personally, no. However, I imagine it is out there. I'm not an expert on every single study.
Okay. It is not an established fact that Drufo is carcinogenic in rats, correct?
Can you repeat that?
It is not an established fact that Drufo is carcinogenic in rats, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Your study has 3 groups, correct?
Yes,
The control group, which is never exposed, the second group, which is occasionally exposed, and the third group, which is regularly exposed, correct?
yes,
And the study was conducted over a few years, correct?
yes,
When you mentioned the health effects, you concluded the correlation,
yes,
correct? But your study was inconclusive in finding if Drufo is carcinogenic in humans. There is just a correlation, correct?
yes. As it was an observational study, it would not be possible to draw direct causation from it. However, there was a high degree of statistical probability that these people had health effects as a result of exposure to Drufo.
Okay. Finding if Drufo is carcinogenic in humans was the purpose of the study, correct?
No, I didn't set out with any intentions of finding specific results. I set out to examine if any effects Drufo would have on the human body after prolonged exposure.
Okay, but your studies were inconclusive, correct?
The studies found out, like I said, the studies found correlation between exposure to Drufo and increased risk of cancer, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay, do you believe that if this case goes your way, you would be included in more lawsuits?
I would be speculating to those results.
Do you believe that you'll be included in those lawsuits?
It's possible, but there's no way to be certain.
Okay, you'll be hired to testify, correct?
Possibly.
You would receive money in those lawsuits, correct?
If I was hired, yes, but it's not certain if I would be hired.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
And Ms. Jimenez, redirect.
I do not wish to redirect.
Thank you. Without redirect, of course, there is no recross. So Dr. Rogers, you are excused. Thank you. And Mr. Samford, do you have any additional witnesses to present for the plaintiff?
No, we do not.
And does the plaintiff rest?
Yes, the plaintiff rests.
Thank you. Give me just a moment. We will have the first witness for the defense as soon as I get that organized here. All right, based on representations of counsel at the beginning of the case, we should have Mr. Lee with his first witness. Is that correct? And Mr. Lee, there you go.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry. And we also should have, let's see here. Mr. Sanford, you were going to cross-examine, correct?
Hey, so our order changed up a little bit. Trenton is going to be directing first, and then I will be directing, and then Adela.
Oh, okay. What are we? All right. One more time. Who's your next witness? Is it Dr. Williams?
So Trenton will be directing Skylar Reeves.
Can you use his last name for us as well? Trenton
Braden.
Trenton Braden.
Will be directing
Skylar Weirs.
Skylar Weirs?
Yes.
Okay, so our first witness then will be Skylar Weirs, and our first attorney for the defense will be Mr. Braden, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good enough. And your second witness will be?
Our second witness, I will be directing Devin Williams. Brandon
Got it.
Williams.
So you're just exchanging 1 to 2. There we go. Okay, give me just a moment then. And we will, Mr. Braden, do you have your witness ready?
Yes.
Okay, and I was correct then. Let's see, we will have Ms. Jimenez will be crossing Skylar Weirs, correct?
Yes.
Okay, everybody's ready. Mr. Braden, you may call your witness.
I'd like to call Skylar Weirs to the stand.
And let's see, there we go. And Mr. Weirs, you have been sworn to tell the truth. Mr. Braden, you may proceed.
Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Skylar Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an investigative journalist. I work for a magazine called The Rationalist.
And how long have you done that for?
I've been doing it a couple of years now.
And what is The Rationalist?
Here at The Rationalist, we're a nonprofit organization promoting scientific skepticism and resisting the spread of irrational beliefs and superstitions.
Okay. What would you say your writing process would be?
My writing process, I get whatever I need to write about from my editor and publishers. And I usually do research on whether what I'm writing about. Things I write about are like conflict between individual health and corporate policy. And I've also written about agritech before.
What is agritech?
Agritech is modern and developing agricultural technology.
And do you have a degree?
For what I do, a degree isn't necessary. I feel like I'm more than enough qualified for what I do without one.
Your Honor, I would like to admit Skylar Weirs as an expert in modern agritech.
And if you could give me the specific area again.
Agritech?
In advertising?
Agritech.
Agritech. I'm sorry. That's what I just wasn't getting it. Agricultural technology. Agtech or agritech. Give me a moment here. And Ms. Jimenez, do you have any position on the qualifications of this person to be an expert in agritech? And you need to activate your microphone though.
No, sorry.
And do you have any objection?
No.
Okay. I will then qualify Skylar Weirs as an expert in agricultural technology. Mr. Braden, you may continue.
And what is modern agritech exactly?
Like I said before, modern agritech is modern and developing agricultural technology. Yeah.
What has modern agritech changed about agriculture?
Modern agritech is always developing new products that are either more safer or more effective. A really good example that's pretty relevant to the case today is Truffaut.
How would you say Drufo is safer or more effective?
I'd say Truffaut is safer because Drufo itself is an effective pesticide, meaning lush fertilizer has no need to add already known carcinogenic chemicals such as arsenic glyphosate.
And what is different about Drufo than rather say arsenic, for example?
Drufo is the research on whether or not Drufo is carcinogenic or not is inconclusive. Yeah, there's excuse me. There's no conclusive evidence saying whether or not Drufo is carcinogenic, making it different from.
So is.
Hang on just a minute. Having a short health problem. There we go. I was coughing myself not long ago, so we'll give it just a second. There we go.
I'm so sorry for that.
No, that's not a problem. And Mr. Braden, you may continue.
Okay. What was the last one? How is Drufo safer?
Like I said before, Drufo is safer because itself is an effective pesticide. It's also an effective bonding agent. Since it's an effective pesticide, there's no need for lush fertilizer to add already well-known carcinogens such as arsenic and glyphosate. And since it's a more effective bonding agent, it needs to be applied less times a year.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay, and Ms. Jimenez, we have, let's see, cross-examination. And do we still have our witness? There we go, there we go. Now everybody's ready. Ms. Jimenez, you may begin your cross.
Thank you. You write for a magazine called The Rationalist.
Yes.
This is a publication dedicated to promoting scientific skepticism, right?
Yes.
So in other words, you work for a publication dedicated to calling into question scientific findings?
I wouldn't phrase it like that. I'd phrase it more as us at The Rationalist, we push people to ask more questions and not just believe what scientists say.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Unlike Dr. Rogers, you do not hold a PhD. Correct?
Since I write for a magazine, I'm not a scientist. I don't need a PhD.
You didn't go to college.
Like I said, for what I do, I don't need a PhD or a degree.
Okay. So your entire basis of knowledge on this topic is your research into Drufo for The Rationalist?
What topic exactly do you mean?
Drufo? And
Drufo. Well, I wrote about Drufo as a series of my modern agritech.
Yes.
This is a part of my series on modern agritech. I researched Drufo for over a year. I feel like that gives me more than enough qualifications to speak on Drufo.
But your entire basis of knowledge on this, on Drufo, is your research for the Rationalist magazine.
Extensive research that I've taken from national organizations and departments that is very accurate and very
Is that
credible.
a yes or a no?
Yes.
Thank you. You define pesticides and herbicides as poison.
Excuse me?
correct?
I can't hear
You
you.
define pesticides and herbicides as poison, is that correct?
Okay. Pesticides and herbicides are poison towards unwanted organisms. Yeah.
Would you agree that then Lush Fertilizers product is inherently unsafe?
I would not agree. I would say that Lush Fertilizers product is inherently safer than its competitors.
So it is in no way unsafe.
I wouldn't say there's no risk, because with every single product in modern agritech, there's some sort of risk with all these chemicals. What I'm saying is Lush Fertilizer is guaranteed safer than other products.
And you know Lush Fertilizer has nitrogen in it.
Yes.
You agree that nitrogen is known to cause various types of cancer.
Yes.
So we've established that you write articles for The Rationalist.
Yes.
Your writing is what generates your income, right?
Yeah. I also have to work a job at Applebee's as well.
So up to now, writing has not been very lucrative for you.
I mean, I could, if I really wanted to, I could make money out of my writing, but I choose to write about the truth rather than make money.
And you've also admitted that you are a bit of a gambler.
Yeah.
For several years, you made money gambling.
I made and I lost while I gambled, yes.
And you have not been able to climb back from that money you lost.
It's pretty difficult. I'm slowly inching my way out, yeah.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Braden, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you may proceed.
Okay. So, Mr. Weirs, would you say that pesticides are poisonous?
Pesticides are poisonous towards undesirable organisms.
Would you say Drufo causes cancer?
The research I did and the publications I've read about whether or not Drufo causes cancer or not, I've never seen a publication talking about, yes, I've never seen anything. My personal research was inconclusive, so.
Does Drufo have risks?
Like every product, you know, we don't really know that much about Drufo, so it could have risks. But one thing I can guarantee you is that Drufo is safer than competitors.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
And Ms. Jimenez, recross on those issues.
I do not wish to recross, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Weirs, you are dismissed as a witness and excused. Thank you very much. And give me just a moment and we will have our next witness. And Mr. Lee, you'll be doing direct examination of your witness, Dr. Williams, and we should have Mr. Samford on cross-exam. And it looks like we have everyone except your witness.
Yes, Your Honor. We would like to call Devin Williams.
There we go. And let's see here. Yes. And Dr. Williams, you have been sworn in to tell the truth, so we will proceed with examination. Mr. Lee, go right ahead.
All right, Mrs. Williams, can you please restate your name and spell your last name for the court?
Yeah, my name is Devin Williams, last name spelled Williams.
All right, and can you tell me about where you went to school?
Yeah, actually, so I went to school at Colorado State University, and I currently hold a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology, as well as a Master of Science degree in forensic toxicology and forensic toxicology.
And what did you do with those degrees after leaving college?
Well, I used them to get a job at Lush Fertilizer, which I've now been working at for the last 10 years.
And can you tell me a little more about your job at Lush Fertilizer?
Yeah, well, I first joined Lush about 10 years ago now. And actually 7 years ago, I was promoted to be the lead toxicology expert at Lush Fertilizer. And at Lush, my job is to help develop Drufo, which is the main bonding ingredient in Lush Fertilizer.
And do you have any publications?
Yeah, actually I have 6.
What's a publication?
A publication is a published piece of writing.
And what do your publications talk about?
They talk about a range of different topics, mostly agriculture and toxicology.
Right, and what is your role as a toxicologist?
My role as a toxicologist is to develop and ensure that Drufo is environmentally friendly, cost-effective, and safe.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to admit Devin Williams, or Ms. Williams, as an expert in the field of toxicology and any research related to toxicology, as she demonstrated the requisite education, skills, knowledge, training, and experience through a PhD in toxicology, as well as 10 years of experience at Lush Fertilizers, 7 years of experience being the head of the research and development team, and plenty of training to go along with that.
Mr. Sanford, your position on Dr. Williams.
I have no objections.
Dr. Williams then will be qualified as an expert in general areas of toxicology, including all the areas that you indicated, but toxicology in general. And Mr. Lee, you may continue.
All right. Okay. So why are you here today?
Well, I'm here today defending my company, Lush Fertilizer, from heinous claims about their product safety.
All right. And why are there concerns about Lush Fertilizer safety?
Well, there has been controversy surrounding Drufo, which is our own patented chemical, regarding Drufo safety.
All right. And could you tell me about what Drufo is?
Well, Drufo, like I said, is our own patented chemical. We developed Drufo, and it is the main bonding agent in Lush Fertilizer. So think of it as like a glue that bonds the ingredients in the fertilizer to each other and to plants.
All right. And why is Drufo important within the fertilizer?
Well, Drufo is our very environmentally friendly pesticide. No other fertilizers on the market currently contain Drufo, which makes our fertilizer one of, if not the most environmentally friendly fertilizers currently on the market.
So why is Drufo environmentally friendly?
Well, with normal fertilizers, there's a process.
Relevance.
And Mr. Lee, what's the relevance of where you're going?
We're talking about the environmental effects regarding Drufo, which Drufo is a very important aspect of this case. It's part of the fertilizer, which is very much so under contention here. And talking about what Drufo does and what it is and how it affects the environment is very important to this case, in this line of questioning.
Mr. Sanford, why is that issue not relevant here, that general issue?
Whether or not Drufo affects the environment is not relevant to whether or not it is a carcinogen that causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Are you, Mr. Sanford, are you planning on raising the cost-benefit analysis later in this case?
I am, yes.
Okay, I'm going to allow this testimony then based on what I anticipate that testimony will be, that we have to weigh the benefits against the risks here. Risks are great, then benefits maybe not, but if they are not, but we need to know about both of them. So objection overruled. Mr. Lee, you may continue. If you need to re-ask the question, go ahead.
Ms. Williams, what is the environment? So why is Drufo good for the environment?
Well, with normal fertilizers, there is a process that happens called eutrophication, which basically means that all the harmful nitrates and chemicals from those fertilizers runs off into water streams. Now, because lush fertilizer needs to be applied significantly less than its counterparts, that process is interrupted and no chemicals flow and harm any environments.
Why does lush fertilizer need to be applied less to the plants?
Well, Drufo, our bonding agent, is much more effective and lasts a lot longer than its counterparts.
Okay, so in your professional opinion, do you believe Drufo is good for the environment?
I do believe Drufo is good for the environment, yes.
Great. And moving on, so do you do any research regarding Drufo in your job?
Yeah, I do some research regarding Drufo.
Could you tell me about some of your research?
Yeah, so I research elements of Drufo and some studies done about Drufo.
All right. And in any of those studies, have you seen anything talking about the health risks of Drufo?
Yes, actually, I reviewed a study done by Dr. Casey Rogers, who is testifying here today.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that study?
Yeah, so as a part of his study consisted of analyzing 3 different groups of people. People with no exposure to Drufo, people with minimal exposure, think gardeners, or people who would use it maybe like once a season. And then the final group being farmers, or landscapers, so people who would use it on a daily basis.
Right. And do you find this study to be credible?
I do not find this study to be credible. His study concluded that Drufo was carcinogenic. However, the study was never peer reviewed, nor was it ever replicated. And in addition, the control group of farmers were exposed to many other fertilizers and chemicals and a totally different environment than gardeners or people who never used it.
So you mentioned it wasn't peer reviewed. Why is that important?
That's important because, well, in the scientific world, peer reviewing is an important aspect of ensuring that a study is credible. If a study is not reviewed by another expert, it greatly decreases the credibility of that study.
Right. And you also mentioned that it wasn't replicatable. Can you tell me what that means and why that's important?
Yeah, so that means that the study was only done once. So the results could be affected by various other factors. It's not certain that Drufo is harmful based on one study.
And you mentioned the demographics of people tested. What was the issue with those demographics?
Well, the issue was that the groups were very, very different, and the proper measures to ensure that there was control were not taken. People who had no exposure to Drufo were exposed to very different environments than people like farmers who were exposed to various other chemicals.
And do you find this study's conclusion valid?
I do not. As I said, it has not been peer reviewed or replicated, and that invalidates the study.
Have you come across any other studies that talk about Drufo and its health risks?
I have not.
Right. And okay. So in your professional opinion, do you believe Drufo is safe?
I do believe Drufo is safe, yes.
And do you believe that Drufo has been proven in any way to be a health risk?
There have been no valid studies that have shown otherwise. So no, I do not believe that Drufo is in any way dangerous.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Mr. Sanford, cross-exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I begin?
Yes, you may.
All right, Dr. Williams, I want to talk to you about the importance of Drufo to you professionally. Is it true that your professional reputation depends on the success of Drufo?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Could you speak up?
Sorry. Is it true that your professional reputation depends on the success of Drufo?
My reputation does not depend on the success of our product, but because I work at Lush Fertilizer.
And is it true that your financial success is tied to the success of Drufo?
Well, not necessarily. As well, Lush Fertilizer is my main source of income as I work for the company, but with my knowledge and degrees, I can easily work and help develop any other product. So while yes, it does help me financially, I don't believe that is very significant.
Let's talk about why you said no. Is it true that you're currently employed by the Lush Fertilizer Corporation?
That is true. I've been working with them for the past 10 years.
Yeah, since 2010, right?
Correct.
And you've been working on Drufo since you joined the company?
Yeah,
And you were a technician on the Drufo development team?
that's correct. Yeah.
And you were promoted to lead labs working on Drufo?
Yes, I was.
And you oversaw the environmental impact reports on Drufo?
I did.
And until recently, you chaired the company's ethics committee.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
And until recently, you chaired the Lush Corporation's ethics committee.
Yes.
And the CEO of Blake Dogcourt needed you to keep Drufo an industry-leading product.
Correct.
And the CEO needed you to keep Drufo cost-effective.
That is correct.
Let's talk about the importance of Drufo to Lush. It's true the success of Lush Fertilizer hinges on the success of Drufo.
You could say so, yeah.
And agricultural production has increased in some areas by 800% between 1960 and 2000.
Could you repeat that?
Agricultural production has increased in some areas by 800% between 1960 and 2000. Is that true?
That is true.
And that growth would not be possible without fertilizers?
That's true.
And Lush Fertilizer serves the agricultural market, is that right?
That is true.
And Drufo is central to the success of Lush.
That is true.
And you view Drufo as a revolutionary product, right?
I do. It is
And you
very
believe
environmentally friendly.
It's a product that works more effectively than the fertilizers of your competitors?
It does work much more effectively.
And Drufo is why it's more effective, right?
Could you repeat that?
And Drufo is what makes it more effective.
That is correct.
And the sale of Drufo benefits Lush.
That is correct.
And the sale of Drufo products benefits your stockholders.
That is correct.
According to you, the Lush Fertilizer Corporation prides itself on environmentalism.
We do. We prioritize the environment over almost everything else. It's a big passion and of Lush Fertilizer.
And Drufo is currently banned under EU law.
Unfortunately, yeah, but we are fighting a lawsuit, and we are hoping that we will allow the EU, we will legalize Drufo in the EU. But just to clarify, Drufo is not banned for any health-related reasons.
But Lush still sells products to that market, is that right?
Well, that is correct. We have to sell those products just to stay on our feet.
And as they do not contain Drufo, they result in increased eutrophication.
That is correct, but we have no other option than to sell Drufo, our Lush Fertilizer without Drufo.
Because it was just easier to manufacture a line of products without Drufo.
Not necessarily. It was also not in our budget at the time to fight the EU when we released those products.
In your statement, which you signed, you do say it was just easier to line and manufacture products without Drufo.
It was easier at the time. However, now we do have the option to manufacture a line of products with Drufo, and that is why we are fighting this case.
And that line of products you manufacture with Drufo, you do sell them in the United States, right?
That is correct.
An internal study at the Lush Fertilizer Company revealed that baking Drufo would eliminate all risk of carcinogenic qualities.
That is true, but there were little to no risks.
And the Drufo you sell in the US is not baked, right?
It is not baked, no, because we don't need to bake it.
Drufo would lead to a 6% profit increase.
Could you repeat that?
Because not baking Drufo would lead to a 6% profit increase.
I help to develop Drufo. I don't analyze our profits, so I'm not sure about the profits that we will make.
All right. You're working to have Drufo unbanned in the EU right now.
That is correct.
And if the EU ceased to ban Drufo, it would result in increased sales for Lush.
Could you repeat that?
And if the EU ceased to ban Drufo, it would result in increased sales for Lush.
That is correct.
And if the EU ceased to ban Drufo, other markets might be more likely to do the same.
That is correct.
And that would result in even more sales.
That is correct.
And if you lose this lawsuit, it would create a whole host of bureaucratic roadblocks in the EU.
Unfortunately, yeah, it would. I mean, this lawsuit could completely throw us off track. And
Yeah. These roadblocks will prevent you from selling Truffaut in that market.
that is correct.
And is it fair to say that losing this lawsuit would likely impact your sales in the United States?
That is correct. I think it would impact our sales.
And as we
Unfortunately.
discussed, you have been on the Truffaut team at Lush since 2010,
That is correct.
and you were the head of the labs and the company's ethics committee.
Yes, I've stated previously that I am.
Do you think it would be fair to say that losing this lawsuit would impact you personally?
I think it could impact me personally, but I don't think it will.
You don't think it will?
It could, but I don't think it will because I'm confident in my statement. I'm confident that we won't lose this lawsuit. Hypothetically, yes.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
And Mr. Lee, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Williams, what is the advantage? How does a fertilizer with Truffaut compare to one without?
Well, fertilizers with Truffaut are much more environmentally friendly and they work a lot faster and bond stronger. Their bonds are stronger, so it lasts a lot longer.
So why do you sell Truffaut?
Could you repeat that?
What is the primary reason your company sells Truffaut?
Well, the primary reason that we sell products containing Truffaut is because we prioritize environment over everything, and we believe that we need to develop a product that is environmentally friendly and cost effective.
So would selling Truffaut to the EU be positive for the environment?
It definitely would be.
Okay. And again, about regarding this Truffaut ban, do you believe that this Truffaut ban is valid?
I do not believe so. So the EU banned Truffaut because it contains nitrates, which are banned in the EU. However, we currently are fighting a lawsuit we're currently in the process of researching to fight this lawsuit in order to legalize Truffaut in the EU.
And how does Truffaut affect the nitrates within the product?
Could you repeat that?
How does Truffaut affect the nitrates within the product?
Well, the nitrates in our product are significantly less than its competitors. However, in lab tests, they show to be a lot more, which makes Lush fertilizer look dangerous, but with the proper research, we're able to prove that it is no way harmful to the environment. In fact, it is more friendly towards the environment.
So in your professional opinion, Truffaut should not be banned in the EU?
It should not be banned in the EU, no.
No further questions, Your Honor.
That concludes the testimony of Dr. Williams. And thank you very much. You are excused. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. I apologize. I was on the wrong list. Mr. Sanford, do you have recross for this witness? I apologize.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, and could we have Dr. Williams back? My mistake. I apologize, Dr. Williams, to have you reseated as a witness. You remain under oath. I forgot to ask Mr. Sanford for the plaintiff if he had recross. And for future reference, if I do ever do that again, make sure, counsel, you speak up. So, Mr. Sanford, do you have recross?
I do, Your Honor.
And go right ahead.
Dr. Williams, you said in your previous testimony that having Truffaut unbanned in the EU would likely be good for the environment.
That is correct.
And Lush prides itself on its environmentalism, right?
That is correct.
And yet you continue to sell products without Truffaut to the EU to this day.
Well, as it is illegal to sell those products, our only option is to sell products not containing Truffaut.
You do have the option not to sell products, right?
We do, but that would impact our company.
It would impact your profits.
You could say so, but very minimally, as our main source is from the US with our product Truffaut.
So you're willing to sell an unsafe product to the EU for minimal profits?
Our product is not unsafe.
It is bad for the environment, isn't it?
You could say it's somewhat more unsafe than our products with Drufo, yeah.
And it results in increased eutrophication, doesn't it?
You could say so.
And increased eutrophication can lead to algae runoffs in water sources, right?
It can, which is why we are fighting hard to ensure that Drufo is legalized so we can prevent any of that.
And these algae sources can harbor harmful bacteria to humans that can result in very serious illness.
They can, and like I stated, we are currently fighting hard to ensure that it's legalized so we can minimize any harm.
But you still sell those products to the EU.
Like I said,
That has been asked and answered. Let's move to a new question.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Dr. Williams, now you are excused. Thank you very much. Give me a moment and we will move to our third witness for the defense. Just a moment.
Your Honor, sorry to interrupt, but we need to restart our computer as we are having technical difficulties.
That's fine. Go right ahead. Just tell me when you're ready.
All right. Thank you for your patience. We've resolved our issues.
Okay, and our next witness, my understanding is that Ms. Newray will be doing direct exam. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Thank you. And our defense counsel will be Mr. Malone, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, for the plaintiff, our cross-examination will be Mr. Malone, correct?
Correct.
Good. And looks like we have our witness, Ms. Newray, if you would call your witness.
Yes, I call, defense calls Blake Doncourt to.
And Mr. Doncourt, you have been sworn already, and Ms. Newray, you may proceed.
Good evening, Blake Doncourt. Can you please state your name and spell out your last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
What is your profession currently right now?
I am the CEO at Lush Fertilizer.
When was Lush Fertilizer founded, Mr. Doncourt?
It was founded back in 2004.
How has your company grown?
Our company has grown from a very small company to a multinational company.
What is the success of your company?
Our company has become very successful enough that we are able to donate 10% of our annual funds to charities.
What are the charities striving for?
They're striving for environmental safety.
Objection, Your Honor, character evidence.
The objection is that this business about charity is character evidence. Ms. Newray, what's your response?
It is not, it's just, I'm just simply stating Lush Fertilizer.
Mr. Malone?
I believe it is establishing a background that is not necessary right now.
Interesting objection. The character of a company, and as opposed to the character of a witness. And technically, a corporation is a person under the law. I've not addressed an objection to the character of a company before, but regardless, I don't see this as character evidence. There is an allegation here that Lush is poisoning the public. And I believe that evidence as to Lush's intention, its corporate intention, is relevant to that extent. I won't allow a lot of testimony in this area, but I am going to allow it. Objection is overruled. Ms. Newray, if you need to repeat that question, you may. I don't want to pursue this too long, but you may ask a few questions about it.
Okay. What are those charities striving for?
Those charities are striving for environmental safety.
Is being environmentally sound important to you and your company?
Yes, it is very important. That's why we developed the chemical Drupo.
Okay. What products does your company produce and sell?
We produce fertilizers we also sell the fertilizer.
Okay, what is Drupo? You mentioned it earlier.
Drupo is a bonding agent that we specifically made to keep our products intact and preserved.
Did your company ever test Drupo?
Yes, ever since its development, we have been testing it up until its release to the market.
Did you find any correlation between Drupo and cancer in those tests?
No, we did not.
If you did find any correlation, would you put a warning on the label?
Yes, we definitely would. I wouldn't want to risk anyone's lives being at risk.
Okay, changing subjects, let's talk about Carson Durst. What is your relationship with Miss Durst?
My relationship with Durst is that before working for our company, we were really close friends since youth. And then he started working, I got him a job at our company, but then we grew distant when he got fired.
Had she brought anything to your attention during her time at Lush Fertilizer?
No, she did not.
Can you tell us about the email that was sent to you?
This email that they're saying that they sent, our team could not find it anywhere.
Okay. What do you think about Carson Durst, Mr. Doncourt?
Carson Durst is a very hardworking person, but sorry, repeat the question. I kind of forgot.
What do you think about Carson Durst? What is your opinion?
Let's be a little more specific about what he thinks about him professionally, personally. Let's be a little more specific on that question.
What do you think about Carson Durst professionally?
He was a hard worker up until the point before he got fired, where he stopped putting in as much contributions as I've heard from our other employees.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
And Mr. Malone, cross-exam.
Mr. Doncourt, let's discuss how the outcome of this case will impact you in Lush Fertilizer. You understand that Lush Fertilizer is being sued in this case for negligently failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent Drupo from causing unreasonable risk of harm.
Yes.
And you are aware that the basis of this claim is that Drupo caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes.
You are also being sued for failing to warn users about Drupo of the risk of harm or injury for those who use it.
Yes.
And this is also based on the claim that Drupo causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Doncourt, it would be bad for your business if Drupo was found to cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes, that is correct.
You are also the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer.
Yes, that is correct.
And you've held this position since 2000.
Yes.
You are incredibly proud of your company's success, correct?
Yes, I am.
And it took a lot of work to build Lush Fertilizer into a successful company?
Yes, it did.
So for you individually, it would be bad if Drufa was found to cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes, of course it would. That's putting someone's lives at danger, but we don't think that it causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or is carcinogenic. Based on
Is that a yes or a no, Mr. Doncourt?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
It would be bad for you individually if non-Hodgkin, or if there was a link between non-Hodgkin's.
Yes.
Mr. Doncourt, let's discuss what Lush Fertilizer knew about the dangers of Drufo. You heard Carson Durst's testimony today, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you are aware that Mr. Durst found a study from England that showed a chemical component in Drufo might cause cancer.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
You are aware that Mr. Durst found a study from England that showed a chemical component in Drufo might cause cancer?
Yes, that is correct.
You are aware that one of Lush Fertilizer's scientists raised a concern that Drufo might cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Yes.
And you are aware that your own internal study concluded that additional research was needed to determine whether Drufo had an adverse effect on humans?
Yes, that is correct.
And you are aware that your own internal study found that baking Drufo might eliminate the risk of cancer?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Doncourt, I want to shift gears here and discuss some of the decisions you made to maximize your company's profits. You admit that Lush Fertilizers does not bake any of its profits.
Yes, we do not bake our products.
And that includes Drufo.
Yes, that's correct.
And you do not bake any of your products because it would lower your profits?
Yes.
But you do agree that baking your fertilizer would remove any risk of your product becoming carcinogenic?
Yes, that is right.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Ms. Newray, redirect.
No, I don't have any redirects at this moment.
Without, of course, without redirect, there is no recross. So, Mr. Doncourt, you are excused as a witness. Thank you very much. And Mr. Samford, I'm sorry, Mr. Lee, does the plaintiff have any additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the defense has no more witnesses.
And does the defense rest?
Yes, the defense rests.
Thank you very much. We're now going to proceed in just a moment to closing arguments. Plaintiff first, give me just a moment. And Mr. Malone, I understand you will be doing closing argument. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And are you ready to proceed?
I am prepared.
Then you may proceed. Thank you.
Lush Fertilizers put profits over people's lives. We are here today because Lush Fertilizer put profits above people, and the consequences of its actions have been enormous. The damages caused by Lush's negligence cannot be ignored. Dakota Weirs loved to play the piano, and from a young age, she would play with her grandfather, sitting together in front of the piano, and these were some of Dakota's fondest memories. When Dakota's grandfather died when she was 7, the piano made her feel like maybe somewhere he was still with her. Piano was the focal point of Dakota's life, but it was not the only part. Dakota was also involved in her community and loved to help others. Dakota was the president of student government and volunteered at a homeless shelter. All of that changed when Dakota became ill. Dakota started to experience rapid weight loss. In addition, Dakota had chest pains, chills, and her abdomen was swollen to more than double its normal size. Dakota was scared. She had no idea what was going on. Even the doctors could not figure out what was wrong with Dakota at first. And here's this young person, whole future ahead of them, yet an unknown illness holding them back. One day, Dakota learned from watching the news that Drufo, a chemical she worked with as a landscape technician, was linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. All of a sudden, it all made sense. This is what caused her illness. Drufo is what was holding her back from her future. We are here today because Lush Fertilizer negligently created a substance, Drufo, that it knew posed an unreasonable risk of causing harm. Even worse, Lush Fertilizer knew the risks Drufo posed and failed to warn users like Dakota of the harm it would cause. We are here because Lush Fertilizer put profits over people. We have met our burden of proving by a preponderance of evidence that Lush Fertilizer was negligent. As a result, we are seeking $1.3 million in damages. I want to review the evidence showing that we met our burden. First, you heard from Dakota Weirs, the named plaintiff in this case. Ms. Weirs told you about her experience using Drufo as a landscape technician starting at the age of 14. Ms. Weirs used this product for several years. Importantly, you also learned that Lush Fertilizer never labeled the potential risks of using their product. While it is true that Mrs. Weirs did not wear protective equipment, as a 14-year-old girl, she had no idea what the implications would be of such decisions. She did not know she would develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Next, you heard from Carson Durst, a former employee of Lush Fertilizer. Ms. Durst explained to you that while she worked for Lush Fertilizer, discovered a study that found a chemical component in Drufo was linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in rats. Ms. Durst reported that this information as her job required. What was Lush Fertilizer's response? They ignored her. Not only that, a scientist who worked for Lush Fertilizer had shared that concern. And what did Lush do? They ignored the scientist as well. At every opportunity, Lush Fertilizer ignored information that Drufo was dangerous. Finally, you heard from Dr. Rogers. Dr. Rogers, a professor of horticulture and entomology at the University of California at Berkeley, conducted a study to determine the impact of exposure to Drufo. He found that those exposed to Drufo were significantly more likely to develop cancer, more specifically, more likely to develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now let's compare the evidence we've presented to what the defense has presented. As I go through this testimony, keep in mind how credible the defense's witnesses are. You heard from Blake Doncourt. Mr. Doncourt is the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, and it is hard to think of a person more tied to the success of Drufo here today. You heard that Mr. Doncourt is very proud of this company and its accomplishment. It should be no surprise then that the last thing Mr. Doncourt wants is for this case to ruin Drufo and ruin Lush Fertilizer. You should question Mr. Doncourt's testimony, who feigns ignorance and claims they never knew Drufo would cause cancer. This is despite the fact that a former employee and scientist on his team called out precisely that danger. You heard from Skylar Weirs. Keep in mind, Skylar Weirs is an expert, at least according to the defense. The reality is, Skylar Weirs writes articles for Conspiracy magazine, yet the defense wants you to rely on Ms. Weirs to support its claim that Drufo causes cancer. Of all the people in the world, the defense called Dakota's twin sibling, who has nowhere near the amount of experience as Dr. Rogers. Finally, you heard from Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams works for Lush Fertilizer. This is Lush Fertilizer's second expert. I want to emphasize this. Lush Fertilizer called two experts. One was the sibling of Dakota Weirs, who is barely qualified to be the expert. The other is a current employee. The defense failed to call a single independent expert to refute our evidence.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that you were out of time.
Oh, time is called. All right, thank you. And we'll now have a closing statement for the defense, Mr. Lee. And are you prepared?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then you may proceed. Thank you.
Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today the plaintiff has had to prove to you three things. They have the burden of proof to show you that there were damages caused by Lush Fertilizers, that there was negligence, meaning that Lush knew that Drufo could be potentially carcinogenic and did nothing about it, and that there was causation between Drufo and the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that Dakota Weirs now has. Now there are damages. There is no dispute. To My client is very apologetic towards Dakota Weirs as he's hurt, and again, my client is very apologetic. But the damages were not caused by lush fertilizers. There is this, the plaintiff will have you believe that this case is about profits over people, which is simply untrue. This case is about research and results. Now, through their research and results, they would have to prove to you that Drufo is directly causally linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the cancer that Dakota Weirs has. Now, to do this, they have presented two studies to you. They have presented Casey Rogers' study, which has been addressed as it has incorrect sample sizes, has not been recreated, and also has not been peer-reviewed. A PhD scientist, Devin Williams, who has been working in the field for a decade, has testified to the lack of credibility that this study claims. The other piece of research that they have provided for you is that they have provided for you, the jury, is a European study, which we do not know the authors of, and the conclusion was regarding rats. The only thing, so they have presented two pieces of research to you, and neither piece of research has shown any conclusive results through either not being credible or just not being a valid source. Now, Casey Rogers, let's talk about Casey Rogers first. Casey Rogers is a scientist who has set out to look for potential issues with Drufo. And when you set out to look for something, you will find it. And again, none of his research has been conclusive. His research may have been there, but his results were not. So there was no knowledge to be had. There was no potential negligence with lush fertilizers because they could not have known something that was not conclusively proven. There was no causation because again, it hasn't been proven. There was no damages from lush fertilizers as again, it has not been proven. Now, let's talk about Carson Durst, who has presented a different research paper to you, which came from a pamphlet, and again was from Europe. And this pamphlet, again, has no valid conclusion regarding humans. It's about rats. And while the research is inconclusive, there are no results, and the research is also just not valid. It comes from a random source in a different union. We have no knowledge about whether this is proof. Now, again, there might have been a little bit of research, but there were absolutely no results. Now, you've also heard from Dakota Weirs, who again, we are very apologetic towards, but has only provided emotional testimony today. Dakota Weirs has not provided any empirical research or results to back up any claims against lush fertilizers. And all of this is backed up by our three witnesses. First, we have Blake Donkor, the CEO, who wouldn't risk his entire business. And then we have Devin Williams, who is a PhD scientist, who again would not risk his entire credibility over the potential risk of a carcinogen. And finally, Skylar Rose, who has done plenty of research and come to the conclusion that lush fertilizers is not liable in this case. So we ask you to find lush fertilizers innocent in this scenario. And we ask you to rule in favor of our client, lush fertilizers. Thank you.
Thank you. And because of time constraints, there is no rebuttal argument. Consequently, the case has been submitted. Our panelists, our scoring panelists, will now be charged with completing their scorecards. During that time, and I would ask them, as soon as you have submitted your scorecard, each of you, please rejoin us by video. And that way I will know when the scorecards have been submitted. Otherwise, I'd like everybody else on video, please. If all of the witnesses and team members would join. I have a few comments to make. I will tell you they are mostly just burning time until our panelists are done because I can't do any individual evaluations while they are scoring. But I want to congratulate all of you, and I will simply do it visually here. And I would like you to congratulate each other, other members of your own team, members of the opposing team, and all of those folks who have joined us on YouTube, the supporters, the coaches, parents. They put up a lot during this, not as much as you, but they're working on this too because they have to support and counsel you during all of this. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you so much.
We may have all of our, let's see, no, we have one panelist left. So I had a few general comments. No, we've got everybody now. So I will let the, and it's been a long, long day for all of us. So I'm going to ask the panelists to keep their comments short. Ms. Cohen, you can go first.
Thank you, Judge Wheeler. So I echo your comments. First of all, teams, give yourselves a huge pat on the back. You did a wonderful job today, and I want to commend you for dedicating your time to this competition. I know that this virtual format can be challenging, and I know that there were some challenges on some teams, and you guys did a wonderful job of handling those challenges and persevering. So good job on that. Based on my experiences, these competitions seem to attract people who are interested in the law in some way or who have a curious mind. And while this competition is certainly focused on the attorney perspective from the trial perspective and advocacy, I also just want to take a moment to point out that the legal field is a vast and diverse field. And there are many opportunities to participate and also contribute to this field in a non-attorney role, whether that is, you choose to work in the private sector, the public sector, on behalf of, plaintiff or defendant side, or if you want to be a private investigator or a compliance officer. I just want to let you know that based on what I've seen today, our field would be richer for your participation in it in whatever way you decided to do so. So I just want to again give you a big kudos and welcome you to this field, and good job today. Very good job.
That is very high praise. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Sanchez Majano, Mr. Sanchez Majano, I'm sorry I butchered your name again, and I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine, Judge Wheeler. Thank you. Ms. Cohen said it, I think, better than I could say it. So I will echo everything she said. And then also, again, the virtual format is hard, but I see it right now in district court. The judges deal with it. The lawyers deal with it. And so you're getting early practice right now, which is great because I think it's something that's going to stick around, at least for certain types of appearances. So I want to congratulate all of you individually, and it's just amazing to see all the work that you guys put in. I remember doing it myself, but then you never got to watch it really. And so seeing it now from another perspective, older, I think I even appreciate it more. So pat yourselves all on the back. You did an amazing job.
And Ms. Garcia.
Yes, hi. I was definitely impressed by all of your performances today. I think that it's fair to say that there are definitely some future lawyers in these groups. I thought you guys did a really great job of staying professional. Even when you did experience those technical difficulties, you still stayed in your professional sort of characters, and that was really impressive to see. So yeah, you guys really pat yourselves on the back. And you guys have been going all day. So to keep that energy up and keep that passionate advocacy up is really impressive to see, and you guys did a great job today.
Just a few final comments. How many seniors do we have? Do we have any seniors? 1, 2. All right. For the 2 of you, I am so sorry that you will not be able to participate at a junior senior type level live in a courtroom. Because you'll be gone next year and hopefully on to college or whatever else you want to do. Hopefully it's college, and you may think about being a lawyer, but I'm sorry that you have not gotten to do this live in a courtroom. The rest of you are underclassmen, and God willing, we'll be back in the courtroom next year. And I really hope that you decide that you want to participate in this mock trial exercise again, because this is so difficult online. It's, as everybody has said, overcoming the technical difficulties. Also, the fact that, some of you are together, like I see witnesses together, but that doesn't matter. It's the attorneys. If you can be together, that makes a world of difference, so that you can confer with each other during testimony and things like that you can't do on Zoom. Even if you're in the same room, it's so difficult to have a conference when you're on Zoom. But I really hope you decide next year that you'll participate and do this again, because you all did a very good job. I think you all know that each year there's work to be done and you get better and better. And, you know, even as a lawyer, every trial you do, you get better and better. Other than that, I know that it's been a long day. You want to get out of here. So I would ask the three scoring panelists, if you'd stay with me for just a second, and everyone else, congratulations and good luck. And hopefully we see you next year, all but you seniors. So thank
Good
you
job,
again.
guys.
And you can drop off. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the other team. You guys were amazing.
Thank you.